Hi everyone, my name's Nick and I'm an alcoholic. Grateful to be here, grateful to be sober. Yeah, Glenn, it's so great to see you here, man. Like I'm so glad you just keep coming. Cause like that's kind of what I do. I kept coming and my life only got better. Like I feel like for me today, right? Like today, I could like have a relationship with my parents. Cause like when I was growing up, like I was like drinking and using most of my time. And I definitely like didn't allow myself to like have a relationship with them. It's like one of the biggest regrets of my life, I guess, is like I wish I kind of like grew up when I was growing up, like I wish I didn't choose drugs or alcohol for my family. But today, like I live with my parents, which is really cool. Because like when I first came in, like I was living in a sober house. When I came out at 21, they kind of all had enough of it, so I went to rehab for the first time. Um, and there, like I wasn't even, I didn't want to be sober. I was kind of like, yeah, like I'm gonna go move to like I was like, I'm gonna go move to Europe and like smoke a bunch of pot and shit. And like that's kind of like what I wanted to do. I wasn't ready to be sober at the time, but like kept coming. Um, like growing up, I guess like growing up for me, I always wanted to drink. I kind of like always wanted to drink. I'd always like I would always want to like be older, sit at the bars with the older folks, be a part of that because like that's just who I am. Like I'm an alcoholic. So all my alcoholic thinking before I dove into the steps was just how can I get my like next fix? How can I get my next drink? Um, and even like growing up, like I wasn't like I wasn't like well behaved. Like those are things I found out like later in life. I thought I was like a good child when I was really young, preteens, but like I guess like I choked a kid on a bus once. Like I was already lashing out, like looking for attention because I love attention. That's something I love the most is attention. Um, and then like later on in life, um, my mother got married, and for me, that definitely like changed my life because I never like had a father figure. The only father figure I knew was my dad. And my dad left when like before I was born or a little after that. So yeah, I never really had a figure. And like me kind of already at that age, I was probably like around 12. I was already like jonesing. I was already like, I already want drink. I was like, so like I was like already like, how can I like get drunk? Like who can I hang out with? So I started hanging out with the kids that like acted like me and kind of like wanted to do drugs like me. Um, so I remember like I definitely had like a few cigarettes before my first drink, and I thought like, oh sweet, like cigarettes, right? Like I was like, oh, I'm so old. But like I was only 12. I always wanted to be older than I was. Um, Eventually when I probably around eighth grade, I started like smoking pot. And for me, like I was like at a like hurrah moment. And at the same time, like I had my first drink. But for me, when I had my first drink, like um people talk about like the moment, right? But like for me, that moment already passed when I was younger. I was already wanting that first drink. So when it happened, like I went on a run. I went on like a crazy run for like the next 10 years. Um, middle school was like actually kind of rough for me too. Um, I don't really. I used to get bullied a lot actually when I was in middle school. So my natural reaction for me is to like bully other people, like put people down to make you feel how I feel. And that's what I did for a long time because I wanted people to feel how I felt, like this emptiness inside me. I wanted you to feel what I felt, like that pain and that suffering, because that's the only thing I knew. I never had any other skills. I never did. I probably could have learned them, but I just never did. So eventually, probably around yeah. So now like I'm like like in high school, my high school year, like I was a mess. I really was. I was always wanting to go out. I never wanted to be home. I was just always looking for those drugs and drink like a drink and drug. Um, and it was just so crazy like looking back to like like I actually enjoy being home today. Like I actually enjoy spending time with my family today. Like I can be a part of today, which is really cool. Um, and eventually in middle school, I did play sports. I was okay at them, I was lucky enough to like play lacrosse. I played on a club team in lacrosse, but like the whole time, I still didn't want to be part of. I still wanted to like. I remember we went up to Lake Placid in New York for a tournament, and I just sat in the room the whole time. My family and my parents were like, "Oh, like we want to like we want to hang out, like we want to do stuff," and I was like, "No, like I want to hang out in the room because my friend from my hometown went as well, and and I just wanted to like do drugs with him, you know, like I thought he'd want to hang out and do drugs with me, and like, and he was like, "No, like I'm spending time with my family." So like that's the kid I was too, you know, like if you didn't hang out with me, like if you didn't drink like me or drug like me, like I didn't want to be like I didn't want to hang out with you. Like something was wrong with you. But like today I learned like some like today I've learned like you know like today I go to like a GSR meeting and I can be a part of like I can realize like these people all want what I want, right? Like they all want to be sober today. And then eventually in high school I had a partner, and I like I ruined their lives, you know? Like I took that person and I just like ruined their life. Like I just like wanted them to feel like how I felt. I wanted them to like feel all that pain. Um, and then if you're an alcoholic like me, like once you like keep hurt like once I keep hurting people, like I just want to hurt them more. Like I want to bury them. Like I want to bury that relationship so they don't even come close to me ever again. And that's what I did. Um, and today, like I have to deal with that, right? Like I have to like accept like that's the type of person I was, and I don't have to be that person anymore. And at this point too, I was beginning to drive, so like 16 and a half, I'm beginning to drive, and I'm already like drinking and driving. Like like the first day I got my car, I think I drank and drive. Like, and then it was just like how much beer, like what can I hide in my car? Like I used to always drive around in bottles, and I used to drive my dad around, and I'd hear the clinking on the back of the seat, and I'd be like how doesn't he hear this? You know, like, and it was just so crazy to look back because like I don't know, he never, I guess like he never said anything, and for me like that's just where I was at 16 and a half. Like I was already like stashing beer in my room. Any crevice I could find, I'd put it there. My parents would find it and they'd be like, "Dude, what the fuck is this?" And I'd be like, "I don't know." Right? Like I'd tell them this like big honest lie, like this big lie that I thought was like so convincing to people, but like really they just could read through it, and I just didn't want to deal with it. Um, and at this time too, like once I got my car, like I had to sell drugs, right? Like because like that's what the people I looked up to, like all the kids selling drugs and drinking like I do, like that's the people I look up to. So I want to be just like them because like I couldn't be like me. Like I couldn't be Nick. And I think today like I can be me. I can be like comfortable today, and I don't have to like be something I'm not. Like I don't have to fit this like this like label that I think people want to see. Like I can just be me. And but that took work, right? Like that took a lot of work for me because I had to like do some steps. I had to get honest with another human being, something I never was when I was drinking and using. I was never honest. I could never like tell another man, another human, like what's going on with me. Um, because I just didn't want to, you know, like I wanted to feel special and I wanted to feel unique, but at the same time, like I didn't know how people did that, right? Like I'd always look at people and be like, "How are you doing that? Like how, like there's something wrong with you, right? Like the kids that had the good grades, like I'd be like, oh, you're a mess. There's something wrong with you, right? Like not because like I have C's and D's, like like there's something wrong with you, right? Like I got it all figured out, right? Like I went through life most of my life like being like, oh, I got this all figured out. Like I know what's right. You're all wrong. So probably eventually, like once I became like a senior in high school, um, I was really into it, right? Like I was already like going out, you know, like the bars that would serve underage, I'd go to those. Um, any club that could let me in underage, like I'd go to that. And I'd go and like party casinos, you know, like I'd go to casinos and like gamble money. And I thought I was like so cool. I'd always like tell people like, oh, like look at me, look what I'm doing. But it was all like a facade, you know, like it was just a big facade that like today, like I don't have to like have that facade, I guess. Like today I can just like be like, this is what I'm doing. Like I'm doing some pretty cool things in my life and I can just be proud of it. I don't have to like tell you what I'm doing so that you can like be like give me affirmation that like, oh, like, yeah, yeah, Eventually I went to college. College for me, like I was drinking and drugging. My first week of college, I went to probably 2 schools within 1 week. My first school I went and I got like super drunk. Um, my parents had to pick me up because I got in the drunk tank. And like I wanted to, like, like I ran from the situation I was in. Um, because that's all I know how to do when I'm drinking and using. I run. I just run and I avoid big time because I love to, like, because then I really have to be honest. So I ran to a new school in Boston, and in Boston I thought like, oh, all my problems would be fixed when I go to school in Boston, right? Like I was going up to school in the middle of nowhere in New Hampshire. And I went to Boston. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be okay. Like I'm gonna like I'm gonna have a great job today. Like I'm gonna like go through school, get the good job, all this. But like when I moved to Boston, I just surrounded myself more with people that like drank and drugged like me, that acted like me, that wanted what I wanted, what I thought I wanted. That's the people I hung out with. Um, and then eventually, like I created like a friend group, and what did we do? We just went out and we drank and drug. And like for me, like like looking back, some of those times were okay. Like they were kind of fun. But like I can't like reminisce on those. Um, because like most of it was fun for a minute, but then it really like 3 o'clock in the morning, shit really hit the fan. Like me stumbling around, my parents seeing stuff on Facebook, like me all fucked up, like bringing out a birthday cake, right? At like, and they'd be like, dude, like you look so trash. And like, oh, I'm sober. Like I was only having a few, right? Like me barely able to walk. Like, oh, I was only having a few. Eventually, I dropped out of school, because like I couldn't really handle it. I was like in between classes, I'd go to the bar and have a drink. And I wasn't even legal, so I'd use my fake ID everywhere. And then like the amount of fake IDs I went through, it was just crazy. Because I always wanted to like be a part of like something else, someone like older, be an older person, right? Like no, I couldn't be a part of like where I was. Like it was just so crazy looking back that like I thought like today I can be a part, like I can just like accept today more, I guess, for me. A lot of it is like acceptance of like where I'm at. And I can complain like living in central mass, like there might not be a lot of young people, but like acceptance for me is like always my answer. When I'm getting upset and irritated, like I try to accept the situation I'm in and like what opportunity it can bring. Because when I was drinking and using, like the amount of opportunities I probably had or I just couldn't take because I thought my way was the right way. It was just crazy. It's craziness. Like me drinking and using is craziness because I'm the only thing I'm looking for is that drink or drug. Nothing else. I don't care about anyone else. I'm just like selfish, and all I care about is how like what you can do for me. Like what can you do for me in that moment to help me get to my end goal is drinking and drugging more. Um, so eventually I had like a pretty decent job when I was like 20, but I burnt it down. And at this point, like pretty much everyone knew I was an alcoholic. I remember I was hanging out with this friend group once, and this person was like, "Oh," I was like, "Don't you think you have a problem?" And they looked back to me, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm an alcoholic." And I was like, "That's crazy. Don't you need help?" And then they were like, "I don't want to deal with it today." And I was like, "Oh yeah, but like I'm not an alcoholic." And they laughed and were like, "We hang out all the time and drink, and you don't think you're an alcoholic?" And I was like, "Nah." I was like, "You're just like a messed up person. Like all your family issues, you're like just because of that. That's not because of me. It's like I'm not an alcoholic." Like I found a million excuses with other people to identify. Like I character assassinate people all the time. So like I could feel like I could still drink and drug. Eventually, like it just got worse. Like I really got into cutting when I was 20. And then I like tried to kill myself 3 times because like eventually I pushed everyone away. Um, and then eventually like I just wanted to like take it out all on myself. Like I eventually wanted to like take it all on myself because like for me looking at that is like it's just like who for me like I guess for me like it's just who Like who can I like, like who if I can't hurt you, like I want to start hurting me. Um, because like I just have to hurt people. That's just what I do when I'm drinking and using. But like eventually everyone had enough, when I was like 21, I was like, I just celebrated a big birthday and I had a big birthday bash. So I spent all this money, right? So people came out of the work when word works. When I'm like, oh, like I'm spending money, like come hang out with me, right? Like they didn't hang out with me any other time. But like when I'm like drinking you up or like smoking you up or like spending thousands of dollars on drinks and drugs, like you want to hang out with me. And that, for me, like that makes me feel so cool, like makes me feel so empowered. But like it's never like it's all a facade. Like I never had friends. Sobriety like gave me friends. It gave me relationships with people, like honest relationships with people that like today I can still have, which is really cool. So eventually I went to rehab, and I showed up and I just wasn't happy, like I was like y'all like doing drugs and like shooting dope. Like that's not me. Like I was like, that's not me at all. And but like, like I got 12 stepped and I was just like, whatever. Half the time I was like, whatever. Sometimes I listened. Um, it was really hard for me to listen because I didn't know how to listen to someone else. Like I was like, I have to listen to you right now. Like, nah, like I'm just in my head thinking about like all this crazy shit and like character assassinating you, why you're wrong and all this. Um, but like I was able to listen. And then I went to a sober house in East Boston, and in East Boston, like I like roomed with a dude that was like 10 years sober. So he like taught me a lot about AA, what's going like what it is and like what people do to stay sober. And I was still fighting him, because like for me, I love fighting people. I want to prove you wrong, right? Like I think my way works. So I'm just gonna fight you until I'm in so much pain, and like just to prove that you're wrong. But like most of the time, like you might be right. Like someone else might be right because my way just doesn't get me anywhere. Um, and then if I finally like started coming around more. I got a sponsor, and I did the steps. For me, I did the steps the first time to the best of my ability. Um, I think I did them pretty good. Like there's no pretty good or bad. Just like how honest can I be with another human being, and that's what I did. I was completely honest with them. For the first time in my life, I was completely honest with someone, and eventually, like my life just kept getting better. Like I started developing relationships with people. And like COVID happened, I guess. So, but like for me, like COVID was a great year. Like the COVID's been great for me. Because I learned like accept the situation. Like I have no power over COVID or anything. Like I just like it is what it is. I can't control it, even though I really, really want to control it. I just gotta accept it today. And when I accept it, like I'm a happier person with it. Eventually I got like a new sponsor. I was probably like almost 2 years sober at the time. So I got a new sponsor. And like that totally like again, I was honest. Like I was like willing and open to listen to what this man said and embrace it. Um, and that's what I did. I just like I just embraced it and accepted it. And again, my life just kept getting better. Like I have a really good life today. Um, I I'm not the person that I came in when I was sober for sure. And sometimes I don't recognize that person, like looking back on it, because I've done so much work on me. It's not like I've done work on anyone else. I've just done work on me. And everyone else somehow, when I work on me, their all attitudes change, and I develop better relationships with people, and like amazing things happen when I work on me. And I guess like I'll just like close with this. One of the greatest gifts I guess is like I can like be a human today. Like I really can just be a human today and have feelings, which is really cool because I never thought I could like have feelings and tell people how I feel and like try to create boundaries and all that stuff like people do in like the world, which is crazy because I'd always look at the world and be like I'd just watch it go by day, night by night. But today I can be a part of it, which is like the coolest thing ever for me. And I think with that, I'll just pass. Thanks, guys.